What's up, everybody? It's Brian here with Bluegrass Defense again. We're here with the Archon's firearm Type B. We're going to run this thing a little bit here at the range. I've already spent a couple days with this handgun. We've run it a little bit, maybe a couple hundred rounds, just to see how it, to get an initial impression of what this thing's going to be like. I was super impressed with this gun. I think all of you all are going to be too. We're going to shoot a couple different types of groupings. I'm going to shoot a little bit of slow, just trying to see what kind of grouping this thing will hold from about 10 yards or so, and then we'll do a little bit of transition firing, shooting at different targets from a static position. I don't have a whole lot of room to move down here, so we're just going to shoot at the steel targets a little bit and see how well our follow-up shots are, because that was kind of this thing's claim to fame. The low bore axis on this thing, the recoil is very manageable. It feels great in your hand. When you fire the weapon, the muzzle flip's almost non-existent. So follow-up shots are really fast. So we're just going to fire some slow groupings right now from about 10 yards or so, and we're going to see how accurate this thing actually is. Keep in mind, I'm not a marksman, but I'll do the best I can. Now we'll speed up a little bit. This is a sweet shooting pistol. Guys, I highly recommend this gun. If you get a chance to pick one of these up, we are an Archon firearms dealer. If you get a chance, come by here. I'll let you test drive this thing, see what you think about it yourself. Come on out and we'll set up a range day. You guys can play around with it and see what you think. But I'm pretty sure my Glock 19 is going to go back in the cabinet for a little while. This is what I'm going to be carrying for the next foreseeable future until Archon upgrades to the next model. So come see me and we'll see what we can do on one of these. What's up, guys? So we'll go over some of the things that make the Archon Type B unique. When this gun is shipped, it's actually shipped in this case. You get 4 magazines, which is pretty unique. There's a lot of gun manufacturers will only provide 2 magazines. Some of the more budget handguns, you only get 1. Like the Ruger EC9 comes with 1 magazine. The Kel-Tec, some of the even higher end guns like Glock and Smith & Wesson and SIG, they still only ship with 2 magazines. And sometimes they can run up to $50 a piece, you know. So essentially you get $200 worth of magazines with this gun. That's a pretty nice feature to have, especially for guys that are planning on using this in like in competition or shooting Comstock or something like that with it. You get more bang for your buck. Looking at the handgun itself, Archon's claim to fame is this super low bore axis. So when you hold the weapon, it sits just above your hand. So as the gun recoils, there's virtually no muzzle flip. This thing is pretty easy to shoot. It's very light on your wrist, not a lot of felt recoil. So the way that they do that is a feature that they call AF speed lock. So we'll show you what that is all about. The takedown to this weapon is a lot like any other striker fired weapon these days. Basically, you take the tension off of the recoil spring and you push this rod out. This is captured, by the way, too. It won't come out. So release the slide, pull the trigger, and it slides right off the front of the frame. Okay, so initially this looks a lot like any other striker fired gun, very similar to an M&P or a Glock, until you get to looking at it closer. Okay, this gun has a 3-stage recoil spring. There's 3 springs in here. Okay, so if you remove this spring, you get to see the mechanism that actually makes this thing function the way that it does. All right, so on a typical handgun, this lug is typically machined into the barrel itself. But if you look at the Archon, it's actually a separate piece. So the way that this thing works, so the barrel sits in the slide like this. If I can get it back in here. All right, so these lugs contact some rails inside the slide. So when the handgun recoils, the barrel only has to fall about 1/8 of an inch until it engages those other rails, and then it allows the slide to come back. See, I don't know if you can see that there. It moves very, very little. It's a pretty unique design. It's wild how this thing works. But it does, somehow. I fired almost 500 rounds out of this gun so far. No failures to feed, no failures to eject, no failures at all to speak of, really. This thing shoots extremely smooth. So on the frame itself, you see these big long rails. That's a feature that you don't see in a lot of polymer handguns. A lot of the lower end handguns will only have small contact tabs that the slide actually rides along on top of that frame. So to see these full rails is a pretty nice feature. The slide lock is pretty pronounced, pretty easy to get to. And so here you can see this flat trigger. This thing feels really good in your hand too. It shoots great. we'll get this thing put back together so you can see the trigger pull. Okay, so the trigger pull on this thing is super smooth. It's a lot smoother than any other handgun that I've felt directly out of the box. So you can see there's just the slightest amount of take up here. So once you start to feel the trigger tighten up, it's good smooth break. So that may be 4 millimeters or so. A nice pronounced click when the trigger resets. The slide itself has these aggressive forward cocking serrations. There are also some on the rear. You can see this unique little cut in the slide. When I was firing this weapon at the range, I found this to be a good way to manipulate the slide. If you were to need to manipulate the gun under stress, it's something, a little extra traction for your hand to get a hold of that slide and rock it. It takes standard Glock sights. This one was the fiber optic model, but I've since put True Glow H3s on this one. So like I said, guys, you guys come down and see me. We'll let you guys run this thing, see what you think about it. We are an Archon dealer, so we can get these. Just come down and see me. But yeah, I'm super impressed with this thing. I'm happy with the way it's running. This thing is it's insane how well this gun feels in your hand.